Namaste. I am MNB Achari. I have been a teacher of English for over 19 years. I love teaching. I love technology. I love bringing technology into the classroom. To complement and support my teaching, I created a website where my class 10 students can revise all their English lessons by just taking a few quizzes. I have a YouTube channel where I share my work. You can check out my work by following the links you see on the screen. Recently, Mr. N. Venugopal, a teacher of English from Sri Venugopal district of Andhra Pradesh, has approached me to explore his topic of research. The topic is developing speech skills among students at high school level. I read those questions that he asked, and I considered the topic very much fascinating and purposeful. The questions he asked are intriguing and interesting. Let me answer his questions now. The first question he asked was, what is meant by effective oral presentation skill? Well, the first thing is to have an innate ability, but not everybody has such ability. In that case, a few tips can really help you make your presentation delightful to watch and listen to. Your voice is your prime tool in this regard. A good articulation in speech can make the viewer's eyes glued to the presenter. It is necessary to practice articulating your speech ideas beforehand. Another thing that helps during oral presentation is the rapport that the presenter builds with the audience. The presenter can show his or her skill by asking the audience a few questions, especially rhetorical questions. The answers are obvious, so you expect the same answer from the audience. And that is how you engage them. And you have to do that as a presenter whenever it is necessary. And I believe that engaging the audience will prove to be an excellent piece of contribution to an oral presentation. And the third skill is body language. It is unarguably one of the most important skills that make a valid contribution during an oral presentation. Nobody can sustain their interest while looking at a dull-looking presenter. I'm talking about the audience. Audience cannot sustain their interest in looking at a dull-looking person. Therefore, the presenter should maintain a particularly good posture throughout the presentation. And the fourth skill I think of is maintaining eye contact with the audience. The presenter should spread eye contact around the audience. At the same time, the presenter must make sure that he does not concentrate on one particular person in the audience. And that looks intimidating to that person, and we are not supposed to do that. The fifth skill that I think a good presentation should include is asking the feedback of the audience at the end. This makes them feel that they are part of the presentation, and that helps a lot. Okay, let's look at the second question asked by Mr. Venugopal. The second question is, okay, what are the various steps involved in making a speech more enterprising and convincing? This is really a very fascinating question. Sometimes you need to go beyond the traditional way of making a speech if you want to make it more enterprising. Let me be fair and square here. I'm not someone who can make such speeches to the public, but when it comes to making a convincing speech in front of my students, it is a piece of cake for me. I always bring up a contemporary topic during my speech in the class or something. This makes my students get hooked to my speech, and you can try something like that. Otherwise, a relevant story that talks about the prime concern of your speech is quite handy too. Okay, let's look at his third question. The third question asked by him is an oral presentation skill important for students? Why? Okay, the answer is a big yes. Yes, unlike a written presentation, an oral presentation demands instant calculation of ideas, which over time increases the ability of the speaker. In an oral presentation, we can exhibit our confidence, which is what people consider while listening to us. Moreover, that is a highly desirable skill that people want to possess in a world where gadgets do most of the work, machines do most of the work. And I have been talking about the importance of oral presentation skill in general, and the same thing is applicable to students. If we can train them to be good at oral presentation now, we can make sure that they fare well in their career and professional life. Okay, let's look at his next question. How do your students respond or react when they are asked to make a speech in front of the audience? Well, it depends on if I ask my best students or not. I define best student as someone who is confident of speaking, but not as someone who knows a lot of words and a lot of things and can do any grammar task in the classroom. In my 19-year teaching career, I realized that speaking in front of audience has got something to do with psychology. I believe that it's a mind game. Students who have extroverted qualities tend to perform better when they are asked to make a speech. But there are some introverts who can go out of their way to make an impact in front of people because they do not need to interact with the people in that situation. And they do most of the talking. Since there is no interaction needed or necessary, they can do very well. But not every introverted person can do that. Okay, to sum up, I can say that I am able to get some of my students to talking in front of audience. Okay, let's look at the next question now. What is the general attitude among the children towards speech making as compared to a written presentation? This is very interesting. And it's obvious. They prefer writing to speaking. Again, it goes back to the psychological fact I mentioned earlier. 30 to 40% of my students are always ready to speak, whereas others feel like they are like fish out of water. The reason behind that is the fact that they have been judged a lot over the years. Knowingly or unknowingly, teachers tend to judge students and correct their mistakes in speech instantly. And this holds them back and stops them from attempting to speak in the future. But these people are good at writing because they are not judged instantly. Let's look at the next question here. Of course, this is the final question. Okay, what affects my students the most when it comes to making a speech in front of an audience more enterprising and effective? And what are the suggested measures to develop speech skills among my students optimally? This is a solid question. I think you need to start with making them feel that they are not judged at all. It is this assessment system that has deprived the students of their right to enjoy speaking. Once you stop being judgmental, you see changes taking place. Your students are going to be ready mentally, and there is nothing that holds them back. I suggest you encourage your students to talk about anything they like. Tell them that it is the idea that should be conveyed to other people, but language can just make it a bit more effective. Once you instill that confidence in your students, they can get along easily. I also suggest you show some professionally made student speeches that you can find online. YouTube is a very good resource. After all, they need to have a practical idea as to how to make a speech. So, in conclusion, let me add a point to what I have said. Let me actually quote an example as to how schools are killing creativity in children. Sir Ken Robinson, an author and educator, mentions this story in his TED Talk. He says that in a grade 2 classroom, a teacher asked the students to draw something. And the children started drawing. As they were drawing, the teacher was going around the class and she stopped at a little girl and asked what she was doing. The little girl said that she was drawing the picture of God. And immediately the teacher said, "Nobody has ever seen God. How can you draw the picture of God?" And the innocent girl replied, "Really? Nobody has ever seen God? Okay, they will see God in a minute. Let me draw. Let me finish drawing." And that's very funny. And that's not actually an innocent girl. Actually, we are trying to kill their curiosity by asking such questions. So let's not do so, okay? I passionately believe that your students can get creative in speaking once you allow them to express their ideas freely. There is magic in it. Well, I sincerely thank Mr. Venugopal and RIESI Bangalore for making me part of this research. I wish you, Mr. Venugopal, all the very best and happy researching. Thank you.